My name is Michael Howe. I'm the President of RUSI New South Wales. Unfortunately at the moment we're in COVID lockdown as many other parts of Australia, and so what would have been a face-to-face lecture will at this time only be a webcast. If you are viewing this program anywhere in Australia, on behalf of us all, I'd like to pay our respects to the elders on the land on which we are located and acknowledge and thank them for their custodianship of the land. Just before introducing our guest speaker, Major General Susan Coyle, I'd like to just give you a quick reminder that this year we've been pursuing across our lunchtime lectures the theme of improving resilience. And I'd like to commend to you the previous series of lectures which started in January and of course are continuing in this month. And across that series we've had a very stimulating range of very high quality speakers. We've had a futurist, we've had the coordinator of the South Coast Disaster Recovery Program in New South Wales, we've had the New South Wales Resilience Commissioner, we've had the Chief Executive of Coulson Air Tankers, we've had the Chief Medical Officer of Western Australia, and one that was very different and I thought also very challenging, the Chief Commissioner of Scouts in New South Wales, talking to us about improving resilience in young people. I'd like to commend these to you, and I'd like to just show you where you can find them very quickly. This is the website reference where you will find those lunchtime lectures as webcast downloads. I commend the website and this particular location to you. Because it's been pre-agreed, I'm going to do the introduction to the guest speaker, and our thank yous to Major General Coyle will be done by our RUSI New South Wales past President, Major General Paul Irving. And for that reason, before doing the formal introduction, I'd just like to give you a quick preview of the programs that are coming and ask for your support in following them and engaging with them. And again, I would commend to you our newsletter. It comes out monthly or as required, and you can join the newsletter recipient group by simply emailing us and telling us your email address, and we'll add you. So I have here a page from the current newsletter, but you can see that it shows the details of Major General Coyle and her address. It then previews the fact that in August we have the now retired Chief Commissioner of Police in Victoria, previously also a senior officer in New South Wales, talking to us about resilience in policing. If moving it a little, we have the Commanding Officer of HMO Sydney talking to us about the Aegis system in September. We have a retired Chief of Navy, Vice Admiral Tim Barrett, talking to us about the need to rebuild our maritime fleet. And I commend these programs and future events to you, and please keep in touch, and we hope that you will enjoy them. It's now my great pleasure to introduce our guest speaker for this July webinar. It's entitled Cybersecurity and Resilience. And just before introducing Major General Coyle in detail, could I just comment how I personally been struck by how rapidly this has become an issue of concern in the general community. We constantly read about cyber attacks taking down systems in our hospitals, our public service and similar. We are constantly now being told of what are called ransomware attacks, where people again are in a form of electronic blackmail required to pay a significant sum of money to have their information systems restored. There's certainly no hiding of the fact that one of the features of asymmetric warfare will be cyber warfare, It's clear that Russia and China, for example, are heavily engaged in this type of activity, and the Cyber Warfare Division is one of the largest and rapidly growing components of the PLA. But today, we're very privileged to have the senior officer responsible for cybersecurity in the ADF agreeing to speak to us, and I'd like to just acknowledge the very distinguished career that Major General Susan Coyle brings to this position. If you have a look at her CV, which is available on the website and also in our newsletter, which I held up earlier, you'll find that she has been initially a reservist, then went through ADFA, commissioned into Signals Corps, and has a very serious achievement record of commanding at subunit, unit, brigade and task force level, including being the first woman appointed to command Joint Task Force in the Middle East in 2020. She has been awarded the CSC and the DSM in recognition of her achievements. Could I thank Major General Susan Coyle for her willingness to speak, her resilience in dealing with the fact that only a short time ago we just advised her that it couldn't be face-to-face, and she responded very promptly and very quickly with the webinar content that you are about to listen to and see. So it's my great pleasure to introduce Major General Susan Coyle, the Head of Information Warfare Division in the Joint Operations Centre, to present to us this July webinar on cyber security. Our thanks, Major General Susan Coyle.
Thank you for the kind invitation to speak to RUSI New South Wales. While I would have preferred to do this in person, today I'm going to speak about how Defence is enhancing our cyber resilience in the context of Australia's defence and national security. Last month, Defence advised Senate estimates that it is a target for persistent cyber threats and attacks ranging from issue-motivated individuals and groups through to nation-state actors and trusted insiders. How, therefore, as Head of Information Warfare, can we enhance our cyber resilience in the context of Australia's defence and national security? Before I get to what successful resilience looks like, I will first take you through the vocabulary that we are developing of what we call the fifth warfighting domain, the information and cyber domain. What is information warfare? I recently presented in April to the Chief of Army Symposium, where in the context of discussing the relationship and interconnectedness with the land domain, I said that information warfare is the contest for the provision and assurance of information to support friendly decision-making while denying and degrading that of adversaries. I suggest information warfare is timeless to you. It's equally applicable in ancient times as attested by Sun Tzu in the widely known Art of War, as it is now in the new digital age, where there is a pervasive cyberspace that allows the transmission and manipulation of information to span the globe within milliseconds. The character of future warfare will not resemble what we have traditionally prepared for, and I believe that you will agree with me and that this future has arrived already. We need to understand better and rapidly drive towards a new vision of what it means for Defence to contribute information and cyber domain effects in support of our national and military objectives. We need to understand faster, manage our cyber and operational risks, make superior decisions and act at a new speed of war. Defence is increasing its sophistication of capability development, and therefore our future approach to the information aspect of our recently declared fifth warfighting domain. But that is not the focus per se of this presentation. Cyberspace is specifically how we enhance its resilience in support of our mission. Towards this end, my team in the Joint Cyber Directorate and I are addressing how defence capabilities will operate in a contested and hostile cyberspace environment across the shape, deter and respond continuum in a rapidly evolving strategic environment and threat landscape. So what is cyberspace? We can quite simply think of it as the global digital environment of partitioned and interdependent logical and hardware infrastructures, networks, systems, information and services. This definition is no longer constrained to the internet, to our computer systems or telco networks. Much of cyberspace is not an interdependent network any longer, and it's not limited by ICT alone, nor does it stand to separate itself from the electromagnetic spectrum and electronic warfare. Cyberspace explicitly includes what we have traditionally considered as separately nested operational technologies, or within traditional warfighting platforms, our ships, our tanks and our aircraft. We also recognise that the majority of cyberspace is now software-defined, virtualised and non-physical. Cyberspace ultimately resides upon a physical hardware layer, which also means we can target it with kinetic effects. Defence protects a complex cyberspace environment of over 1,000 networks, comprising more than 320,000 endpoints and devices. The total investment in strengthened information and cyber domain capabilities is going to be approximately $15 billion over the next decade, and this includes things such as $5 billion towards resilience improvements, $1.4 billion towards strengthened defensive cyber and deployed combat platforms, and $1 billion for our security upgrades. We recognise that for defence and our mission, we need to describe cyberspace with fidelity to frame a unified construct of manoeuvre in and through cyberspace. We recognise that we need to consider the full breadth of scope and global digital supply chains if we are to achieve situational awareness, decision superiority, and agile command and control of our cyber domain operations and activities. Importantly, this thinking allows us to get after the information aspect of the fifth warfighting domain in a way that horizontally spans the entire defence enterprise and its mission, that recognises that cyberspace is loosely but not literally coupled to it. This thinking also allows us to recognise the rising prevalence of sub-conflict or grey zone operations as a part of a new strategic setting and the role that defence plays. We know that information and cyber is now both a primary domain for warfighting in its own right and a critical dependency for the traditional land, air, sea and space warfighting domains. This thinking allows us to address the risks and exploit the opportunities presented by cyberspace for military advantage. The character of cyber warfare, how we project defensive power and also operate to defend our cyber terrain, is influenced in particular by its key domain characteristics: accelerated speed, global reach, the span of consequence and strategic risk considerations, the scale of cyberspace effects, the constant state of flux, which is fragile and inherently complex, that cyberspace can be recognised, reconfigured or destroyed, and the challenge of attribution and confidence on account of its fundamental uncertainty. We recognise its warfighting domain characteristics. One aspect is the concept of cyber resilience. But what is resilience? Since the launch of the Defence Strategic Update in 2020, there has been significant focus on the government's direction to enhance the lethality of the ADF for high-intensity operations, especially in what this means for Defence's kinetic options through area denial and long-range strike capabilities. This is understandable, as increasing our resilience and self-reliance means that Australia is positioned to make an even stronger contribution to regional security and to our alliance with the United States. However, this focus looks past an important part of lethality, the ability of our force elements to survive. Survivability is a key concept that underpins lethality, as it allows systems to remain mission capable, to maintain their presence and continue to deliver effects. We are ensuring that survivability is a key consideration for all defence capabilities. The Defence Strategic Update also articulated that defence should move to contest in the grey zone, taking a persistent engagement posture short of war. Defence must also be capable of conducting and responding to information warfare and its effects as part of high-end conflict. Let's now consider what resilience means in a non-technical sense. Various dictionary sources have described it as the capacity to recover quickly from difficulties, to be tough yet elastic, and the ability to spring back into shape. our ability to respond to or recover readily from disruption, shock or crisis. These could be equally considered in terms of people, processes and technology. Indeed, we need to consider all three for defence, as resilience must mean our capacity to recover must be strong and our layers must be deep, and we must be able to fight even when we're hurt. Resilience means survivability. We now arrive at the core question I have been asked to address today. What is cyber resilience? Let me answer this not from the perspective of what we've done at a technical level, but what that means for defence and our capabilities across all 5 warfighting domains. And that answer is one word: cyberworthiness. ADF operations are the headline of the work government tasks defence to undertake. It's what we focus on, what we train for, and at the end of the day, what many of us in uniform signed on for. But in the realm of cyberspace and its critical dependency to traditional domain operations, a resilient foundation is vital. For us, this means a secure, assured and survivable cyberspace and the ecosystem that surrounds it. That in turn postures us to maintain the confidentiality, integrity, availability and survivability of the information resident in and through it. We must prioritise and focus our efforts through the lens of our missions and our tasks. Without this, our house is built on quicksand, or will be overrun with things that we do not need, or more to the point, no longer need, and our operations will never be as effective as we design them to be. To that end, the ADF has developed a concept called cyberworthiness. The term itself may seem vaguely familiar already. Each of the ADF services have a worthiness framework that supports technical regulation and assurance in their own respective environments. For example, whether it's a RAF aircraft that's airworthy to fly or not, we have taken this concept and applied it to the cyber environment. No simple task, I assure you, but one that is necessary. Organisationally, our span of cyberspace terrain, which, as I said before, includes a blended ICT, OT, EW landscape, is highly complex, difficult to map and can represent a largely unmanaged attack surface for defence if we are inattentive. This, coupled with very adaptive and malicious cyber threat actors whom are presenting a persistent threat to current and future defence capabilities, means that we cannot continue to address this issue as we traditionally have. And this is not something we can do alone. Our government colleagues and our industry partners are absolutely key enablers to have any success that we want to achieve in this space. Cyberworthiness, therefore, encompasses assurance of cybersecurity and extends this to include what we refer to as FIC, the fundamental inputs to capability. Industry is a FIC. Cyberworthiness facilitates an assessment of cybersecurity risk to mission assurance in accordance with the capability manager's operating intent and is necessarily context dependent. Put less formally, the ADF cyberworthiness framework is designed to ensure our warfighting capabilities are survivable against adversary actions in cyberspace across all phases of war, including sub-threshold phases such as persistent contest and our grey zone operations and activities. It is, in essence, a risk management and continuous improvement framework. It enables the ADF to effectively manage our risk in cyberspace as we execute our mission. Cyberworthiness is a key element of defence preparedness, ensuring capability fit for purpose for those that wish to employ it, our government, our Chief of the Defence Force or our Chief of Joint Operations. Worthiness is not just about security. Traditional cyber security is focused on activities designed to ensure the confidentiality, the integrity and the availability of our systems. Cyberworthiness is rooted in survivability, business continuity, if you like, for a more corporate term, and assurance of our mission. We view our capabilities as holistic ecosystems, not just bundles of technology, and our worthiness in cyberspace must address the whole rather than the part. Unsurprisingly, therefore, our future cyberworthiness governance framework has been scoped across the 3 pillars of people, processes, and of course technology. When you pause a moment to think about that, across the span of defence capabilities and through the whole of life cycle from concept of operation to decommissioning, the breadth of what defence needs to ensure is cyberworthy, what needs to ensure is resilient, can be staggering. But if we're good at anything, I assure you that Defence is very good at planning. My team and I within Joint Capabilities Group, along with all services and groups across the Defence enterprise, are leading a number of people and process-based initiatives to advance some of the aspects of what it means to contribute to what we call the Joint Force and its relationship with uplifting Australia's sovereign capabilities. Firstly, we have designed and commenced a pilot to design a fit-for-purpose maturity model based on global best practice, creating solutions that service the unique defence environment whilst also enabling industry to interact with and support our efforts in the most robust and mutually beneficial manner. We have commenced a limited implementation internally, selecting within each of Army, Navy and Air Force a focus area to align our practices to the model at the coalface of capability. We are also tackling the broader strategic problem of enterprise-wide implementation across the lifespan of our capabilities, integrated with our industry partners and our allies. Let's look at people and organisations. Defence continues to face a significant challenge in the recruitment and retention of a skilled cyber workforce due to the high market demand and the global shortage of cyber practitioners. Workforce resilience is a vital priority for us. We are therefore focusing on what we can uniquely offer and features that may be of deciding value to the sort of people that we're going to need as our future operators and our leaders for our joint cyber workforce. These include three aspects. Firstly, our mission. Our cyber workforce has access to unique technical and leadership responsibilities in defence operations or activities that can defend and keep our cyberspace terrain or project offensive effects. Secondly, service. The patriotic pride associated with placing the security and its interests of our nation and its people first and above self. And finally, our culture. Being part of a team of defence whom strive to behave in a way that lives to our values of service, courage, respect, integrity and excellence. Remember, we all volunteer to serve our nation. Defence has committed to increasing the ADF cyber workforce by 230 positions by January 2024. Yes, we are absolutely hiring. I therefore encourage people that gain strength and excitement through the prospect of working for an organisation with the above features of mission, of service and culture to please keep us in mind as your career progresses, or indeed make an appointment with our Defence Force recruiting now. For those studying a cyber-related tertiary course, we have another initiative underway. Government has asked Defence to provide leadership in uplifting the Australia's national cyber workforce, and we've created the ADF Cyber Gap program, where benefits flow to Defence and to the wider nation. This program, led and managed by my staff, is in itself a case study in how people have come together from all areas. Defence needs to draw its cyber people from to deliver an integrated capability cyber workforce. It is led by an ADF officer supported by 2 Australian Public Service full-time employees here in Canberra, contractors from industry with specific expertise and multiple Defence Force reservists across the Navy, Army and Air Force. The ADF Cyber Gap program will over the next 3 years support the skilling and mentoring of 800 Australians to advance their cyber employment and their contribution towards our national security mission. We wish to identify and recruit the very best and the very brightest people into a lifelong career stream that will skillfully and with speed, shape and control an increasingly software-defined, artificially intelligent cyberspace. We also recently broke ground, literally, for the construction of a joint information warfare facility at HMAS Harmon in Canberra. It's scheduled for completion in February 2023. It will initially house the soon-to-be-established Defence Cyber College, which will enable full-spectrum cyber training for our defence cyber workforce. Another initiative that the ADF has undertaken, which provides an organisational platform for us to further build upon, is the establishment and operational service contributions from our 4 new organisations: the Joint Cyber Unit, the Fleet Cyber Unit within Navy, 138 Signal Squadron within Army, and 462 Squadron within Air Force. These are our frontline units who are able to deploy and operate on domain and context-specific cyberspace terrains. They also work in combination with the coordination with our very successful Defence Security Operations Centre to defend strategic and deployed environments in order to maintain Defence's mission continuity in a contested cyber environment. They are not solely responsible, though. It requires everyone in varying degrees to ensure that we are resilient. Our new journey to assure our mission and our lethality is at the core of all of our capabilities, fit for the future strategic setting that Australia now finds itself. So how does cyber resilience map to industry dependencies and participation? As I emphasised earlier, we cannot do this alone. I was deliberate in calling out industry a key component of our fundamental input to capability. We need you and will engage with you in ways that underpin our future concept for cyberspace operations and activities. We are critically dependent upon the global digital supply chain and how that passes through and into what we call our internal blue terrain, or that which is owned and managed outside our firewalls or our network edge, if I use that historical concept of scope demarcation. Defence has a critical dependency on defence industry as part of its cyberspace operation. For Defence, commercially owned cyberspace, where the accountabilities for cyberspace infrastructure and systems lie outside of Defence, is what we are calling the grey terrain, and for which we must account in our mission planning and our capability development. Anything short of a shared appreciation of commercial industry risk and defence mission risk will create exploitable gaps in a specific cyber ecosystem whose vulnerabilities are higher because of their high value as an adversary target. I can also see a future where industry status as a core defence cyber dependency could combine with Defence's significant procurement power to develop a defence industry cyber ecosystem, which generates competitive advantage for industry and the Australian government alike. Defence is urgently looking to a new future out of necessity, and as Head of Information Warfare, how we communicate what that looks like to industry is a key focus for my team and I. Before I conclude, I would like to briefly bottom line what cyber resilience in the context of Australia's defence and national security means. The so what? Or what does this all mean in terms of how Defence conducts its mission sets? Quite simply, it means that we can. It means that we have a Navy ship that can sail where it was tasked to go and perform the missions its capabilities were designed to, whether they be freedom of navigation, contributing to regional stability efforts with our regional friends and allies, through to, or if it comes to it, high-end conflict. It means that an Air Force aircraft is able to take off and undertake its assigned mission and deploying effects that it was designed to be capable of. It means that the Army can operate with the use of cyberspace that may be heavily contested and indeed heavily degraded, but it and Army are resilient and able to continue the fight and prevail. And finally, it means that as our government, through our Secretary and Chief of the Defence Force, reprioritise and reset as and wherever needed, that we are agile and responsive to what Defence's role is, to what our national and military mission is, and therefore we are able to map that task to our cyberspace terrain, reprioritise our capability development and operation to support. That is how we are contributing to a resilient defence mission that is changing step, urgently as we must, to meet our newly arisen and future national security requirements. In conclusion, we collectively must rise to the resilience challenge. I suggest that robust partnering arrangements between defence services and groups and our defence industry together that we will be critically dependent upon will need to pivot to align to our newer understanding of the warfare domain characteristics, that is cyberspace, and to keep the pace with the new speed of war. I appreciate that this is no small challenge, but is one that we must rise to. Collectively, we need to grow our capacity to reconstitute, to regenerate, and to continue to evolve at speed for our cyberspace mission. Successful resilience means survivability of a cyber-worthy Australian Defence Force. Thank you.
On behalf of the Royal United Services Institute for Defence and Security Studies, or RUSI New South Wales, it's my great pleasure to thank our speaker today, Major General Susan Coyle. who's the head of information warfare. Thank you for a most impressive presentation. We understand the significant challenges facing defence in relation to cyber resilience. You articulated an impressive list of actions being implemented to enhance our cyber resilience, including $5 billion for resilience improvements, $4 billion for strengthened cyber and deployment combat systems, and $1 billion for security upgrades. In addition, you've implemented the ADF's Cyber Year Gap program, and Defence is building a new cyber college at HMAS Harmon. One important new issue you emphasised in your presentation today was the rise of sub-conflict grey zone operations and the need for persistent operational engagement short of war. That raises a very interesting matter which would have been the subject of quite a deal of discussion had we been able to have a Q&A session at the end of your presentation today. But what is war when it comes to cyber warfare? Perhaps that's something that we'll have to leave to another date. Thank you again. Thank you.